All right. Welcome, welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday Zoom and Learn. Today we are talking title advantage and everything that corresponds with it, all the good stuff, how to pull property information, how to pull tax sheets, check taxes, check the status of a property, all the good stuff that goes along with all the data that is part of a recording. And those of you who don't know me, I think everybody does, but I'm Tommy Dutcher with California Title Company, and my co-host is
Mary Jane with Granite Escrow. Happy to have you all here today. I'm going to take a second and give Tommy a shout out here. I've been in the industry for 40 years. I grew up working in customer service and escrow and all that sort of stuff. And I was used to old school kinds of ways. If I knew where to get things and how to get them, and I'd pick up the phone and call the customer service department or whatever. But that left me without services after hours and that sort of thing, even though, a lifetime of being used to that. Last week, Tommy brought me in out of the dark ages onto the Title Advantage system. And Saturday morning, I was able to help an agent create an entire listing, net sheet, everything we needed on this. And I'm super excited. I'm glad he's teaching about it. For those who don't feel techie, it was the easiest thing in the world to run. And I'm a full convert now. So I'm very excited to have you teach this today, Tommy.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna, if all systems go, I'm gonna actually show you guys the mobile side of it as well and how easy that is while you're on the go. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and kick this off. So let me share my screen real quick. Go ahead. And guys, if you have questions throughout this presentation, take yourself off mute, stop me, ask the question, because if you have a question, there could be people watching this later that would have that same question. So let's go ahead and answer them as we go. To access my system, which is Title Advantage, you are going to go to the internet. And this is if you have not registered yet. I'm going to show you how to register, get you set up. If you've already registered, this is basically taking you to your login screen on the computer. And then later in the presentation, we'll explain the mobile app as well. But you are going to go to the internet and go to Tommy for Title, TOMMY, the number 4, TITLE.com. And that will take you to the login page. Now, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see down here is your sign in once you're established. If you don't have a password and a username established yet, you're going to go and click here on sign up. Okay. Click on sign up, fill out the page. It'll automatically select myself as the rep. You'll submit it. It'll come to me to approve, and I will approve it. And then you will have access to go back to Tommy for Title and log in with that username and password. Okay. Once you're logged in, it will bring you just to the home screen here. Everything is identical online as it is in the mobile app. So we've made that extremely universal. In the mobile app, you'll see later on that it has 5 tiles as well. They're named the same. Everything's in the same location. And you don't have to worry about it being different. If you do something online, it'll instantly be available on the mobile app and vice versa, okay? So this system will allow you, like I said, to pull property data. It'll allow you to establish farms. It will help you do a net sheet. It gives you a lot of your calculators like mortgage calculators, things like that. Then we have a little bit extra tools that you're not going to really find anywhere else. And so I want to just walk through each of them fairly quickly. And if it's something you want a more in-depth training on, we can do that one-on-one or as a group outside of these Zoom and Learns. All right. So if we wanted to search a property, we would just go to this property tile. Once you're in there, You'll notice that your main menu down the left-hand side remains there, so you can go between things. As well, you will see, and I just want to make sure everybody can still hear me, correct? Because it looks like some of you may be frozen. I want to make sure I'm not. All right, perfect. It will store your last 15 properties that you pulled up, right? So you can go back to those properties fairly quickly. It makes it really easy, right? But for now, I'm just going to do a new property so that you can see how you do it. And I'm going to do a random property. So let's just do 4, 6, 9. We'll pull this one up. All right. Once you put in the address, again, you only need the house number and street name, the zip code. If you don't know the zip code, you can put in the county and, of course, the state. It should default to California for everybody. Once you're there, you click on the property, and then it'll take you in and give you options here, okay? So at the top, it's going to tell you the address, the APN, who is on title. This isn't always, though, accurate here, because as you know, tax sheets only update once a year in July. So if the house was sold and the tax sheet hasn't updated yet, the profile page probably won't be accurate. So you got to look down in transaction history to find out exactly who is on that mortgage, okay? Or excuse me, who is on that property. In here you have 5 tiles. Property profile. Everybody on this call knows what a profile is, but I will show you what it looks like through here. You can create just the property history. So if all you were doing is wanting to pull a profile to find out, hey, when was this last sold? I need to pull a grand deed, things like that. You can do it right here in property history. You can create a buyer or seller net sheet here. And then you have open door and then the create property tax report. And we're going to cover these 3 right here today. And I'm going to show you this one briefly. All right. So full property profile or a quick profile, and it tells you what's on there. Quick profile is just going to give you the profile page. That tells you the ownership, the last transfer date, the value, the transfer value, the loan information, but it doesn't give you any access to pull that documentation, right? It just gives you a one-pager with all that data. The full profile gives you the same as the quick profile, but it also gives you the financing and tax information, the property details, the sales comparables, the plot map, the 25 closest homeowners to that property, and some other things as well, right? So I'm going to show you what a full profile resembles. And as you pull it, if you don't want a cover page or you don't want the aerial map or whatever, you can uncheck what you don't want, okay? And then click continue. Takes a minute to load, and then your profile will come up. You can quick jump to these things, but I'm just going to scroll through. Here's your profile page. This is what you would get with a quick profile, just this page right here, okay? Gives you basically the property characteristics. If you scroll down, it'll give you the sales comps. Now these are, we try and pull them within a half a mile and then expand out from that to try and give you 10 to 15 comparables. If it's vacant land, sometimes that's tough to do, things like that, but typical residential areas, we can do that. And we're doing plus or minus 10% on the square footage. We're doing plus or minus 1 on the bedrooms and baths, and lot size, we're staying within 10% as well. So, you know, we're trying to give you as close as comparable as possible to that property you pulled, okay? But you'll see it gives you that broken down, then it'll give them to you plotted on a map. Then it gives you the high, the low, and the average of those comps. Then it gives you the closest 25 neighbors. People like this because they may just want to farm, you know, that street or what have you. So this gives you the closest 25 neighbors, mailing address, and name. And then it'll give you the plot map. Now the plot map is always going to be hard to read in this system. However, we give you two options here, a PNG or a PDF in a high resolution. So if you need to view the plot map, then click on one of these and that gives you a much clearer high definition plot map. Then it gives you an aerial, and it looks like I pulled up a church. And it'll give you a street view if it's available. Then it is going to give you your history. So it's most recent back. I pulled a random property. I wish it would have been a residential. It happened to be a church. So not a big deal. We can still work with it. But it'll tell you the loan on the property. If you need to pull up that deed of trust, you can do so right here. And all you have to do is click on View Document. And again, this was an assignment of mortgage here. You can view that document. And if you wanted to view the grant deed, you would scroll down to when that last grant deed was, which was here. And you could view that as well. You just click on View Document. It'll open in a new window. Takes a minute. It'll pull that grant deed back. Okay. So it gives you access to those documents. And that is a full profile, right? So like when I send them to you from customer service, we're pulling all those documents for you and adding them in. Now, one thing that this will not be able to give you is it can't give you things that aren't necessarily recorded in county records. Typically, those are financial statements or finance statements. And what I am not meaning by that is deed of trust. That is in here. What I am meaning is because these pull from a couple third-party data sources into our system, the system is internally ours. We don't lease this system. We've built this from inside out. But they don't have access to financial statements like solar lease information, that financial statement from a solar lease or something like that that may be attached to the property. And so therefore, you wouldn't be able to pull that data. You would have to get that from me through customer service. But for the most part, this gives you all the data that you would potentially need right here to be able to pull up any information on a property that you would need, okay? So that is the property profile. The other thing I want to show you is, and I'm going to pull up a different property to do this. Let's go this one. The tax sheet, okay? Click on tax sheet. Now, if you put in the sales price of whatever that property may sell at, it will do the estimated tax for you. So let's say that this is going to sell for $500,000. Then create it. It'll take a minute and it'll pull your tax sheet back. It's going to give you the current tax information here, which is up here. It's going to give you your estimated tax here based on that $500,000. And then it's going to give you all of your special assessments. Now your base.
Hey, Tommy, can I interrupt you first? Can I interrupt you for a sec?
Absolutely.
So being from San Diego, most of my career, and I've only been at Temecula for 10 years, the tax rate issue up here really stumped me. And so being able to come up with this effective tax rate right there for the lender, huge. It's just at the top of the screen there, 1.163.
So this is based on the current value of the current assessed value on this property is $329,575. This 1.163 is based on that evaluation, right? So that's the current. I have a
great source without this. This has been a real help.
The lenders like this because this is down here, the estimated tax. So this is, I plugged in that this house would be selling for $500,000, okay? That recalculates the taxes and all of the special assessments, as well as the basic tax levy, which is your Prop 13, 1.11% there. And it gives you a new tax rate of 1.15% based on a reassessed value of $500,000. Does that make sense? And so the lenders love that because it gives them an accurate reading with all the taxes included, calculated out based on the sale price. Not only that, as an agent, if you're out working with buyers, it's very difficult sometimes to do the quick calculation unless you know exactly the special assessments, right? And then you would have to do the basic tax levy Prop 13 1.11%, which is really like 1.1133 blah blah. You would have to do that. Then you would have to do the calculation of what's the total special assessments and then add those in, then do the simple math to find out what the percentage is. So this just does it for you.
Keys to the
Right.
castle with this one.
And sometimes you'll pull these tax sheets and you will not see basic levy Proposition 13 mandate. It'll just be the special assessments only. And then sometimes you'll pull them and it'll have the basic levy in there, right? So this is the taxes on the property at 500,000 by itself. Everything below it is the special assessments attached to that property, okay? Now, if there's a CFD, Melrose, a Hero, Pace, anything extra above your standard assessments from the city, it would be highlighted in red down here for you, okay? So those will stand out. Typically, those are the ones that aren't 100% attached always. They're usually the bonds, right? A CFD usually, not always, sometimes it is ongoing, but usually is a between 20 and 40-year bond. And then obviously any type of Hero and what have you is typically there for a duration until that expires or is paid back. So you have full access to these tax sheets on the go as well. I'm going to show you that in a little bit through the mobile app, how you could pull that up as well. Okay. And then up here at the top, you have options. So you can email it to yourself or to somebody else. You can print it. You can save it as a PDF or just close it out. Okay. So, you know, if you wanted to save it as a PDF and then mail it out or attach it to other forms or what have you, you have that option. Or if you just want to mail it out to yourself or what have you, you have that option. If you're pulling on your computer, it makes it real easy. If you're pulling on a mobile device, not always as easy to download a PDF and save it to your mobile device, et cetera. A lot of people don't know how to do that. So therefore, sometimes it's easier to email it out. And on mobile, you have the option to text it out as well. So you can text it and it comes as in the text as a link. You click on the link and it opens up. All right. Net sheets. So as you search the property, then you go into opening the net sheet, makes it a little bit easier. Either way, it's going to walk you through that. And I'm not going to do the net sheet. I'm just going to show you what it looks like and explain it all. The report name, I usually put the address, okay? I usually put in 123 Main Street, whatever that address is. And then in down here, created for, obviously the client's name. And then your name would appear here like mine does, but it'll be your name. If it's a buyer net sheet or if it's a seller net sheet, right? Typically, you guys aren't going to be doing borrower refinance nets. Then it'll automatically pull in the data on the property. Shouldn't have to touch that. Then you're going to put in an estimated close date here at the top. You're going to put in your sales price. Any credits back, you'll put there. HOA monthly fee, if there's an HOA, plug in the monthly fee there. Remaining balance or payoff on the mortgage. If you don't know what it is, this will save you. Let's say that in the profile, because you pull the profile first, the profile said that it originally had an original loan 3 years ago or whenever it was for $412,000. Then what you would do is you would calculate. You click on calculate and you put in here original loan amount, $410,000. The month and year in which it was established, we'll say it was February of 2017, and it was a 30-year term loan. It automatically pulls what the daily rate was that day to give you a pretty good idea of what potentially the payoff may be around. And you can click continue and it'll plug that in, okay? So you can get that information from the profile and then plug it in. If your client doesn't have access to their mortgage statement right away or what have you, you can at least do this. I would say almost every time that I've done one and then finally gotten what the payoff is from their mortgage statement, it was within $5,000. So it's not going to be that far off. And the reason it was within $5,000 is they may have made an extra payment, or they may have had some, some extra fees that assessed on there. So it may have been a little bit more. Not only that is they could have bought this rate down. So if they bought it down to 3.75, obviously this would be much less than what 4.17 is. That was the average for that day. Okay.
I have a comment there in that when I used the net sheet for this listing agent, we didn't know what the mortgage was at all, but I did use the property profile. So I just used the face value and I used an average interest rate. And so even though the net sheet showed a particular amount that they were going to get at the end, when they told me how much, I had the pleasure of helping the agent just literally write plus 5,000 to the net sheet at the bottom. So it's much easier to go up and give them, they don't mind when you overestimate and you give them their money back. You can use the face value and take the interest rate, but what a great tool. I didn't know that calculator was there, or I might have tried it.
And I'll take it one step further than that. If I was fully doing this net sheet, and at the end, this net sheet would save within Title Advantage for me. So under that property, so I can always go back and pull this net sheet up. I can go back and pull it up from my mobile device as well, and then just scroll down to the section and put in the exact amount, and then just move forward, and it would recalculate everything for you. Because, as we know, when numbers change in these net sheets, it's not always 100% dollar for dollar. And so it will recalculate all that for you real quick. And then you can just go in and update it, and then you could text it or email it out from your mobile device as well.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. One thing that this system does do is it defaults the tax to 1.25%, which is a low tax bracket on average for our area. So what you want to do is you want to plug in for a seller what their current effective tax rate is. So let's just say that this was the house. It's not, I know, but let's just go in and we'll say it's 1.163. Then in here, I can just type in 1.163%, and it will recalculate at that percentage, okay? It'll tell you if the property taxes were defaulted and there is property taxes owed. It will tell you down here in the property tax section. So you don't have to worry about that. It'll calculate the transfer tax and all that for you. You just have to say who's paying for it. Typically, it's always going to be the seller by default. But sometimes if you get an investor that comes in, the investor says they're paying for all fees, transfer tax, escrow, title, everything, then you can always just change this to buyer, okay? And then you'll plug in an escrow fee. And if I started doing this, it would calculate out this for me. And it takes your standard escrow fees. I think I want to say it's a base of $602 per thousand per side, something like that. And it'll calculate an escrow fee, but you can also change that. Title insurance policy, it's automatically going to calculate that for you. If I go and put in a sales price, it would calculate that. So if I put in 525, it's going to automatically calculate that for me, okay? If it was on the buyer side, it will calculate the lender's policy. Escrow to be paid by, it's defaulted the split between buyer and seller, but you can also change that if you needed to. Owner's policy paid by seller, you could change that if you needed to, and then lender's policy paid by buyer, you can also change. It automatically defaults to a 14-page recording document because that is your standardized recording documents. And then you put in your broker's percentage fee or a flat fee, okay? So let's say you were selling it for 2% and offering 2.5 on that, or whatever it may be, 3% and 3%, you just update that, okay? And then as you, it's going to make me put in all this stuff to get past it. So let me just plug stuff in real quick. Remaining balance, calculate, blah. Okay. Now, these are extra things that typically are always included in most of your sales, right? Home warranty, NHD, pest, termite inspection, right? Dock prep fee, that's about a standard of $50. HOA statement, lien release, removal, that's a transfer, the HOA transfer fee. Processing and handling stuff, don't worry about that. Wire fee, don't worry about that, leave it in there. And notary fees default to the $150. However, all these are adjustable or removed. So let's say that I was doing this property and this came up as my standardized that I have in there. Mind you, it doesn't automatically, when you do it, it's not going to give you home warranty, it's not going to give you NHD. You're going to have to come up here and choose them and add it. And then you'll put in, if it's just a general cost, you can do it here and add it. And then you put in the dollar amount you want. Now, if you want it always to be there because you do net sheets all the time, down here, click on this click here, and it tells you the most likely stuff, right? That gave me an error. But say I don't have a lien of HOA statement removal. There's no HOA. I just click here and remove it. Okay. So it's real quick. I would put in what all your standards are with everything and just easily take out what you don't need. And I put what the averages are, right? So home warranty, we know if there was a pool, you would change that to $650. Just go in and update it as you go through this. But whatever your most common is, leave there, right? And then you'll click continue, and it will do your net sheet for you. It'll do all your calculations. Now, up here, you have the option, print it, email it, convert it to PDF, and save it, okay? On your mobile device, you'll have the option to also, it'll just say send. And when you click on send, you could pick how you want to send it, text or email, okay? So that's a quick net advantage sheet. I'm going to show calculators real quick before I get into farming. There's a couple on here that I like. There's a couple on here that you may never use. You may use them on occasion, right? Your standard mortgage calculator you use all the time, right? Loan amount of $410,000. It's on a 30-year loan at an interest rate of 3.0%. Calculate. It'll break down total interest amount, total paid over the length of 30 years. It'll tell you exactly what your monthly principal and interest is. Now, I get this question asked all the time. Amortization, it'll give you that breakdown as well, right? For 30 years. So that gets used quite a bit.
The amortization piece of that, where it showed what the payments look like over the life. If you're going to have a loan where it's all due, a lot of land transactions, things like that, seller carrybacks, if it's all going to be due in 2 years, then at the 24th payment right there, that's your balloon payment that you're going to need to disclose on your seller financing statement. Besides figuring out the payment, what I really need to know is the balloon payment most often. So like if it's all due in 3, it's all due in 4, it's all due in 5, I've got the exact number that the balloon payment's going to be.
Right. And the nice thing is this is just based on principal and interest. This doesn't have anything to do with taxes or insurance or any impounds type of thing. This is just your principal and interest payment on that loan, right? The other thing that, so that was a standardized mortgage calculator right here. The other is buyer power. Now this one is kind of cool, right? One of these have to be locked at any one given time. You can only lock one. So it's really what's the most important. Is it the monthly payment? Is it the purchase price, etc.? But ultimately, let's say that, and you can click on these and just type it in as well, right? So let's say the monthly payment, you said, I want $2,800 or under, and I'm locked at that. And then you come down here and say, and I'm going to put 20% down because I don't want PMI, right? So if you do that, it'll tell you, do the calculation, then it's a $214,000 down, on, and you can afford up to, X amount. But you can include property tax and advance options. You can change what the going interest rate is. Now, we've defaulted at the 3% right now because that's the average right now. But as the average changes, we will change that average as well. But you can change that however you want, okay? Or you can click on it and just type it in and say, you know what, I want 2.875. Okay. So based on that, it's going to say monthly mortgage payment, principal, interest, tax, right? And that is based on a 1.25 tax rate. Okay. So you can mess around with this, but if it just comes down to like, hey, what's it look like on paper real quick? It does a quick calculation for you, which is kind of cool. Let me go back. I'll show you what these look like. How much house can I afford? You can plug in annual income, call it 150,000. Monthly debt is, say there's car payment, some credit cards. We'll do seven.
You have a question in the chat too. Will the CFD, Hero, and Solar calculate in the new tax information?
Yes. Yes, if it is already in your taxes. Now, remember that taxes only update once a year, which means if you get a Hero loan in March, it doesn't hit the tax sheet until July, right? So once it updates, yes, it will be there. If there's solar on the house and you know it's a lease and it's not showing in the special assessments, then it's not calculating it in there. But typically, yes, it does. It will calculate all your special assessments in there. And in here, I was putting 25,000 down at an interest rate of 3% over 30 years, and I can calculate, right? And it says, based on that. Now, this is based on your average of DTI percentages of that 4850 range, right? So if you come in and say monthly income, monthly debt, putting down payment down, 3% interest over 30 years, it'll come back and say, based on debt to income of that, here's what you can look for. What I like is it also breaks down what that PMI potentially is going to look like, right? So again, that's just something that you may or may not use every now and then, all right? So that's pretty much the calculator stuff. Rent versus buy, stuff like that. You guys can mess around with that. I'm not going to go through all of them because I want time to be able to show you some of the other stuff. And that is in the farming tools. You know, yesterday during the Weekly Valley pitch, I mentioned that, you know, it's kind of weird. A lot of agents, when there's a lot of inventory out there and it's a buyer's market, not necessarily a seller's market, and things slow down a bit and they're on market a lot longer and more days on market. I started getting a lot of calls from agents wanting to farm because their business is slowing down. But when it's busy, I don't get a whole lot of calls on farming. And ultimately is, in my opinion, it's just as important, if not more important, to be farming when you're busy than it is when you're slow. And there's numerous reasonings behind that we don't need to get into, but ultimately is, as a buyer's agent, you sold a property, you should be farming that property, right? As a listing agent, especially now when things are moving so quick, hey, sold in one day over asking price type of farm to a small area around that house may trigger another sale from a local neighbor going, they got what for it? Yeah, we should look at selling, right? So ultimately, you can do a lot of your farming here, most all your farming really. But more importantly is I want you to realize that once you establish a farm in my system, it will automatically continue to update ongoing. So if somebody refinanced or if somebody sold, if it's updated in county records, which is usually 7 to 14 days after it closes, it will be updated in the system, okay? So I want you to keep that in mind. You don't have to go and re-pull the farm, every 3-6 months. You just, when you're ready for it, the next month, pull down and download a new one instead of only going off of your list that you already downloaded, and that's most accurate, okay? Especially if you're doing a farm that is, hey, I only want somebody who has owned their house longer than 2 years. Well, any houses that have sold within the last 2 years will fall out of that farm. So if a house sold between the last time you pulled the farm and now, it will be gone, and you won't be sending stuff there. So you don't have to worry about updating; it'll update itself. Okay. But I want to walk you through real quick how to do that. As well, we have what is called Farm Focus, and Farm Focus helps you narrow down your farm. So you build a general farm, and then you open up Farm Focus and you pull that farm in, and it allows you to then dissect that farm down to more precise things, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like real quick. It's very simple. It pinpoints you. It'll say, but let's say you say I want Temecula, California. It'll pinpoint. You can zoom in and zoom out, okay? I'm just gonna do this section right here over in Wolf Creek. And you can plug in a specific address if you want, and it'll pinpoint that address. We are in the process of updating this right here as well, so that you will be able to drop a pin and just search a radius around a particular address. Right now, you have to physically draw in on the map where you want to farm. But we're going to do where you can plug in, I want a 1 mile radius from this address, or 2 mile radius, et cetera, and it'll just pull that radius for you. So we are in the process of doing that now. Now, once you get into the map, and you'll click on Draw Polygon here, okay? But once you do that, if you want to move the map, let's go back and click on Move Map. It's one thing people get hung up on. So right now, I'll zoom in a little bit, and I'll click Draw Polygon up here. And somebody's trying to enter, okay? I'll click on Draw Polygon. It'll highlight it. And then I'll come in and say, I don't want this section. I want all this section right over here. So I'll click, and I'll just move over and click again, and it'll draw my lines, okay? And as I draw those lines, I can do it as many times I need to stay as precise as I want to stay. And once I get the area that I want, then I'll come back to the starting point, I'll highlight it, okay? Now up here, I can click Get Count. And it's going to tell me a few things. It's going to tell me it's got a 5.9% turn rate over the last 12 months. Means 5.9% of those homes have turned hands. It has an owner occupancy rate of 85.45%. This is actually a good farm area. In my opinion, anything 5% or more on a turn rate is good. And anything above 75% owner occupancy is good if you're farming for listings, right? Now, down here, you'll see turnover history. I could click on that as well. And it'll give me the last 12 months, which is the 5.91, which we have up top. But it'll give me 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And it'll tell me what those turn rates look like, right? So over the last 15 years, 3.27% have turned. Over the last 5 years, almost 5%. So really, the last 5 years, it's gradually gotten better and better. And if this is a farm that I want, then I would name it. Okay, so I'll just put in here Wolf Creek. Okay, and I'll create farm. And then it'll give me options. Okay, so that farm's going to show down here in my farms, right? So I have Wolf Creek right here. It tells me there's 220 homes, which it told me on that as well, and when I created it. To take this one step further, I can go here and say, Get Farm Focus. And then it's going to ask me to select which farm I want to dissect. So I'll select Wolf Creek. I'm going to create a new focus farm. Let me slide this over here. And then it's going to give me the option. So you can zoom in here. Okay. And as you zoom in, the one with the little body in it is owner occupied. The one with the blank circle in it is non-owner occupied. So it gives you a snapshot to look at of kind of like where those are. Then I have options over here on this side, on the right-hand side. And I can narrow it down. Let's say I only wanted to farm, you know, an area that was, homes that have a pool, like the click has a pool. Or I say I only want anniversary dates within X. Oldest sold date, right? So, or the newest sold date. So in here, I want to put, okay, I want to do 10/01/2008. Okay. I did that wrong. Sorry. Let me take that back out. 2018. Put in here 10/01. Okay. So if I narrow it down to oldest sell date of 2018, it'll gray out all the ones that don't meet that criteria, right? If I only want owner occupied only, I can just click owner occupied only. It'll take out the ones that are not owner occupied. It'll gray them out. Or I could come up here and you have different things, right? So up here we have likely to sell. Now that takes into consideration a handful of things. Okay, and you can do top 10 all the way up to top 100 or custom, right? So let's say I want the top 100. I want to farm 100 homes. That's in my budget, but I pulled a 220 house farm here. And I want to do likely to sell. Now, likely to sell takes into consideration this specific farm. And it says, based on these 220 homes, the average homeowner stays in their home X amount of time before they sell. It looks at the average of time before and the percentages in which somebody had refinanced. It will take, if somebody has recently refinanced, out the mix. It will take anybody who has moved into that home within the last 18 months and take that out of the mix. It will take, in a lot of criteria, it searches from multiple points on the internet to pull data on the properties. And then for that farm, it does its calculation and says, based on the history of this area, these people are most likely to sell based on the situation that we see in the data, right? So, and let's say I only wanted to go to owner occupied only within that top 100. I can narrow it down as well and it'll only give me owner occupied top 100. And then once I have a farm focus that I want, then I'll name this. And I always tell people you name it the same. So we'll name it Wolf Creek. And we'll call it farm focus. And we'll create it. Okay, so once you get down to narrow it to where you want it, you'll create it. Now in your farm focus under Wolf Creek Farm, you'll have that and it's 83 homes, right? So I took the top 100 and then I took out and said owner occupied only, and it narrowed it down to 83. Now I can open that farm focus up and I have options here, right? It's going to allow me to see it as a list view, view it on a map, which you already saw what that looked like. Export it. It exports as a CSV file. You can share it, email it out, or get directions to the first 20 properties, okay? Typically, you're going to export it out, download that, and then upload that into whatever company you're using to build your farm, right? If you need labels because you're going to do it yourself and you want to mail stuff out, send me that export and that file, and I will have my customer service print the labels and mail them to your home. Okay. So that's a quick overview of Farm Focus. Now, in more tools here, we have Document Toolbox. This just has a lot of documents that you may use down the road. And as a rep, I go in and add documents to this as I come across documents. And then it's accessible to everybody, right? But there's different counties in here and things like that, different folders, different documents that you can get. So you can definitely, look over that. Live Map is pretty cool. If you want to look at entire areas, okay? So if I come up here and say Temecula, okay, so I know I have live maps in here. Let me go back. Whoops. There we go. But each of these are a community. Let me move this over. So each of these are an actual community, okay? So if you wanted information on an entire community, we add things in ongoing. So each time I go in and do something on a community, I create a live map so that all that data is there. So let's say that let me pull one up like here. Let's say this North Park Northeast, which is in San Diego. I can click on it and it'll tell me right off the bat how many properties in that community, the owner occupancy rate, and the turn rate. And then I can just look for stuff and say, okay, well, I don't need to farm the whole community of 1,000 properties, but maybe I want to farm a section of it, and then I can start looking at the sections. You can also get your turn rate, and you can just click on Create Farm from them as well. So those are live maps. Farm Pro, that links up with Title Pro right now. We're going to change the data that it goes to. See, most title companies use Title Pro, and they use their cookie cutter apps from Title Pro, and they're branded to their company. Our system is internally built within the circle of companies that we belong with. And we just pull data from multiple sources. Now, one thing people always look for is they want, hey, I want notice of defaults or something like that. Well, you can get them. They're not in a typical title system. So you can get them. It's in Farm Pro here. And when you go there, you can search notice of default, notice of sale, stuff like that. And through Title Pro, I want to say there's 6 cents per lead. And that's completely leaving our system. But you have a direct portal into it. Daryl, who's on here, uses this a lot, property line map. So if you want to get a plot map or an aerial and you want it outlined of where that property line is, you can see it. It's an overlay. So it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it gives you a general idea of those property lines. You'll see right here that it is slightly off on that cul-de-sac, right? Why? Because it's pulling from Google Earth and stuff and doing an overlay onto a map. But we got asked for it a lot, so we decided to add it in there for you guys. Real estate documents, you use this a lot. Okay, so all of your documents you'll ever need, and easiest thing to do is just search it up here, type in, I need a grant deed. So grant deed, whoops, clicked on the wrong one, go back. With rights of survivorship, I just want a standard grant deed right here. I can view it or I can download it, okay? And it'll just come up as a Word doc. You can open it up. Hopefully it shows in my screen when I open up the Word doc. Sometimes I have to unshare, but it'll come up and all your grant deeds are there, and you can actually enable editing and type right into it. Okay, so all these are typable. Okay. So if you ever need a document, you have access to all of them. Affidavits, you name it, you have access. You pull it right from your phone and email it out. It's very, very quick. Okay. So you have access to those as well. Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell there. Now what I want to show you is real quick what it looks like on mobile. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing real quick. I'm going to add my tablet into the mix here. All right. And let me open it up. And of course, I get a call right then. And let me go Zoom and start broadcast. All right. So this right here is our mobile app. So can everybody see my screen? Okay, perfect. So CTC Mobile right here, okay? If you open it up, you'll see that we're gonna have the same tiles, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are the same tiles right there that we saw on the main screen. If you click on property, same thing, you can search standard, that'll be putting in the address, APN number, or owner's name. On mobile, you can also do property search photo, which is the third one down. If you're at the property, you just take a picture of the property once you click on that, and it'll allow you to pull that data. Or any properties you've already pulled will be in My Properties, right? So in My Properties, I pulled up that Victoria Avenue one already before. But any property that's already there, and then you have your options down below here, okay? So view property profile, net advantage report, that would be a net sheet. Email the property profile out, because I've already pulled it. It gives me that option when I come back to it. Create a property tax report, get directions to the property, etc. Or you can add notes into this property. But let's say I want the property profile. That comes back up. I've already pulled it once, okay? And then in the upper right-hand corner up here says send share, right? And if I click on that, it'll give me the option to send it out, okay? So I can just click on my email and it'll attach as a PDF. I can click on text message and it'll go into a text message. I click who I want and it'll be a link. And then when it comes to the individual, you click on the link and it'll open up into a web PDF, okay? So you have access to that on mobile as well. One thing with Farm that I didn't show you in the online version is the walking farm, okay? So let's say, I mean, right now, obviously, we're not door knocking and stuff with COVID, but there's nothing saying that you can't go walk and hand deliver stuff. But let's say you wanted to pull up a walking farm. If you click on walking farm, then you can plug in either where you're at. We can pinpoint where we're at by just clicking the upper arrow up there, but I think I have my my GPS turned off right now, so I can plug in an address and just put Temecula. Whoops. Okay, and it'll pinpoint in. I can zoom in, zoom out, and let's say that I just want to walk this one block. Then all I got to do is draw it. From on draw, and clear, draw. So I'm just dragging my finger on the screen right now to highlight that area. And then I can then at the bottom, continue and get count, okay? And it'll load up and I can name it test 44.4, and I can continue. And it'll just pull walking farm on that little section of one block, right? You give it a minute, it'll pull data in. Just give it a minute because it's pulling stuff. Come here. It's very, very slow on mobile when I'm sharing my screen, so you guys got to bear with it. So then I can view the list, and it'll give you a list of houses, okay? Now, you'll see that on the right-hand side, it says score of 3. 3 is neutral because you haven't talked to them or anything. 1 would be a bad score. 5 would be a very solid score. You're allowed to save notes within the system. If you did, it would tell you how many notes you had. It tells you the address for each house over here. It tells you the owner's name, how many bedrooms, bath, square footage, years owned, and whether it's owner occupied, yes or no, okay? The biggest thing with this is, let's say that you're going through one of these and you are door knocking and 43884 Butternut Drive answers the door. I can click on it and I can pull up a property profile. I can pull up a tax sheet. I can do a lot of things. I can add a note at the bottom and I can score it. So if I talk to them and it was a good conversation, but they're not ready, but they may know somebody, I may score it as a 4. If they open the door and say, please don't ever come back, I'll score it as a 1, right? If they're like, yeah, I may want to sell, I score it as a 5. And then you can go in and add anything to this, but then in notes, it'll pop up a note. I can type in here any note that I want, okay? Owner is interested in selling, and I can update the note. It'll store in there. Then I can go back, and then I can just go to the next property. Right now, if I back out of this, you'll see that when it updates, I'll have a note there. Okay. And then, so you don't have to print stuff out anymore. You don't have to take a pen and paper. You see it highlights it in green because I scored it a 5. And you can just save this. And then if you down the road decide, okay, I've done it all, now I want to export it. When you export it, your notes will be there. Okay. So you don't have to take a pen and paper or anything with you. Take your business cards, your brochures, whatever you got, have it on your phone and go. All right. So it's very user friendly. And again, you can pull everything on your mobile device that you can pull on the computer. And it's almost 100% in the same location. Okay. So that you have access to that as well. Let me stop the broadcast on that and get us out of there. Well, the CFD, okay. So that was answered. Outside of that, I want to open it up right now for questions because typically I would get some questions out of this. So pulling tax sheets, once you pull the tax sheet, it will tell you if there's default on taxes as well. It'll tell you what the late tax is on it. I showed you how to pull grant deeds and deeds of trust. That's in the profile, how to pull a property profile. Net sheets and farming. In a nutshell, what questions do you have? I'm here to answer any questions. Right now, we're hovering at about almost 50 minutes. So I will stay on as long as it takes to answer any questions you guys have. And you will have to unmute yourself or put it in the chat, either or. The other thing is keep in mind, if you don't have access to this yet, again, go to tommyfortitle.com, my name, bottom corner of my picture right now, and scroll down to the bottom left and sign up. I will get that and I'll approve you once I get it. And until I approve you, you have access to the system, but you have limited capacity to do things until I approve that. But then I'll approve it for you and give you access to everything you need access to that I just showed you. Okay? No questions?
Yeah, Tommy, I got a question. If we have trouble or difficulty with, anything, should we contact you, or do you go have some type of like tech support?
Yep, just contact me.
Great.
As you know, I'm available all the time. So yeah, if you have issues, contact me. I get asked a lot on the weekends because it seems like Realist Tax likes to do their updates on the weekends. And so a lot of times agents are going on and they're searching properties. They're trying to figure out if they're going to go show properties or what have you. They're pulling tax reports and all of a sudden tax sheets don't want to come up because the system's down. So I get calls all the time and I just pull the tax sheet and send it because I know that you're obviously busy on the weekends as well. And I'm not going to sit there and try and explain to you how to pull it yourself. I just do it and send it to you. But when I do that, it's coming from the system. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'm literally pulling that stuff. MJ called me or sent me an email a couple weeks ago. She wanted LMV. So basically the grant deed and the tax sheet for a property. I pulled it off this system. Now I'm not saying that I'm giving you access to this system so that you can do it yourself and don't have to call me. If you're busy, I want you to call me because I'm available to pull it. But there are times when you just want to know, hey, I can pull it myself, or I just want to look at something, then you have access to it, right? This system comes in handy when you are out and about, more so than anything. If you're out showing houses with clients, how many times have you gone and showed 1, 2, 10 properties, and as you're driving from property to property, your client sees another for sale sign and says, what's up with that property, right?
All the time.
In those situations, this plays a big part because I can instantly pull over, open up my app, go to properties, click on photo, snap a picture of that photo. It pulls up the address, click on the address, go to tax sheet, and find out what's up with the taxes. Is it a high tax? Is it a low tax? I can instantly find out, on a property if it's in default. Because in property history, if it's in default, that means a notice of default has been filed and recorded on the property. Or it's gone past that and a notice of sale has been issued and recorded on the property. It would show in property history that recording, okay? And it would be in red and it would be flagged. And on the profile page, there would be a red flag that would indicate that it is somewhat in default. So you drive past a house, you're like, oh my God, it looks vacant. It looks like it is empty. It's got weeds everywhere. I'm wondering what's going on with this house because I have a client that's interested in a flip. You can at least find out, is it in default? Is it not? The other thing you can find out is the owner's name. So the next thing that I do once I have the owner's name is share my screen. I go to one of two sites. I go to that'sthem.com or I go to truepeoplesearch.com. And so if I went in here and I said, I know I had a profile open here somewhere. Let me open one real quick. So let's say that, I don't know, we'll open this one. View profile. All right. Let's say in here, of course, it's not a good one. It's an LLC. It's an investment company. Let me go back here. Properties never fails.
It's not going to make it easy on you.
No, right? Okay.
I mean, when you are done, I do have a question for you.
What's that? Ask it right now.
Well, okay. So my question is, if you were an agent right now, okay, and you're devising a strategy in regards to how to build your farm going into 2021, what measures would you take on, I mean, obviously you explained how to use the system, but what would you do if you were an agent right now to prep for getting exponential growth into Q1?
One, I would look at where I've done the most business first and foremost, because usually your name's been out there a little bit in that area. Two, I would be pulling up those farms like I just did and looking at turn ratios to find out where things are moving and where they're not. And three, I would tell the agent, don't even start farming unless you're going to be consistent. Because farming is not a one shoe fits all, and it's not a one time fits all. You have to be consistent. You have to look at it, even on something where, you know, I tell agents, you just sold a property, it sold for over asking price in less than 48 hours. One, that's a huge selling point. Two is you probably are the highest sold property for like in that area, right? When you look at bedrooms to baths to square footage. And so why not use that as a selling proposition to spark interest with somebody that may not know that their house is worth a lot more than they think it is, right? However, if I was going to send that, I would look at it in advance and say, just listed is going to go out and just sold is going to go out. And then I may farm it again a third time minimum. And that is, you know, going to be all within 30 days. If you just want to send out one postcard, in most cases, it's going to be a waste of time, right? I want to send it out like almost before my sign goes up, because then by the time it hits the house, my sign's in the yard. And I want to then send it as soon as I have an accepted offer. I'm sending my farm out to have it mailed out like instantly, because I know it will hit within the next 5 days then. And I want it to be while it's in escrow. I want them to know that I got over asking price or whatever it was that's my selling proposition. And I want to know that I want them to know I can do it for them as well, right? And I want it to be known and in their hands before I close on the property. Then I'm going to send out the just closed, right? Again. And so, you know, and with that one, I may have, you know, a link on there or something like that that's also pulling them into like, hey, click here to find out what your home's worth. But ultimately, you have to be consistent. And that's what I would say is you have to be consistent. And if you're looking for a new farm, I always say you should farm the area in which you live, because that's your biggest presence and you'll get to know the people around you. There's a lot of benefits to doing that, and there's nobody to blame but yourself when you see another sign go up across the street. And you should then look for a farm that you're going to be 100% committed to ongoing long-term, right? Whether that's starting at 50 houses, 200 houses, or 500 houses, doesn't matter. You've got to be consistent, okay?
I always tell agents that they've got two areas they know well, where they live now and where they used to live.
Yeah.
So if you started out in Wildemar and now you live in Temecula, there's at least two areas that you know very well.
So I've pulled this property profile. I have the person's name here, right? I'm going to copy the name. I'm going to go back to that's them, and I'm going to paste it in here. Now I'm going to take this first name and I'm going to put it at the beginning.
That's not his first name, Tommy. That's my husband's best friend. His first
Is
name's Steven. Yeah.
So it is Justin.
No, it's Steven is his first name.
Steven's the first name.
Yeah.
Justin's the last name?
No, that's his middle name. Poita's his last name.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So what I'll do is this then. Steven's the first name.
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to, where was that at? I'm going to look at where it's at. We're in Temecula, right? And I'm going to go back and I'm going to plug in Temecula, California. Okay. Now, you won't always get a hit on the name, but sometimes you will, right? So with this one, it says no results. Now, I'm going to take that same name and I'm going to plug it into True People search, and I'm going to plug in Temecula, California as well. And I'm going to check on the name first. Now I get a hit, right? But lives in New Jersey, but used to live in Temecula. Okay. So I'm going to look, and it says past addresses sometimes will be listed. Diamond Avenue, and I think that was the house, right? Let's see.
No,
Was it not? Let's see.
it's JB Lane.
No. Devon Circle.
That's a different guy.
Oh, yep, that is a different guy. Let's get rid of that one. Right here. JB Lane. And then Whisper Court in New Jersey, right? So the mailing address is 202 Whisper Court. So if I came back over here, 202 Whisper Court, that would be the owner of this property. And then I have phone numbers here, okay? So then I would be able to call some of these phone numbers and see if I can get in touch with that person, et cetera. The other thing is sometimes it'll pull in email addresses like this one, right? So it pulled in some Comcast email address, which is usually a home email. So you can search on these. Now, if nothing comes up on the name on both sides, I do a reverse email. Okay, so if I came down here and I punched in, I would usually punch in the mailing address because that's usually attached to them better. So I copy that, and then when I come back, I would plug in the mailing address and search. And then different people will come back and you have to look for the right individual. Usually on one way or the other, I will find, and you have reverse address up here as well, right? And I'll take that out. And I'll take Burlington, New Jersey, and I'll put it here. Okay, and then I get the name, I get the hit on the name right there, right? So these are free services that you can search for people. So a lot of times, you know, if you're looking at that property and it's not for sale, right? But you're farming that area, or you have a client who missed out on a property on X street at the end of the cul-de-sac. You're like, man, they want to be on a cul-de-sac. Well, pull the information on all the cul-de-sacs around it and drop something on the doorstep, send a mailer, make a phone call, see if people want to sell. Just don't be spammy about it. Don't be that used car salesman. Okay. But you can find data, that'sthem.com, truepeoplesearch.com. So that was a great question. What other questions do you guys have? Does the walking farm tell us if there is a dog on the property? No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
Bring a steak with you.
Right?
How about pool homes or casitas?
Yes. Yeah, you can search both of those, 2 on a lot. You can search pool in your farm. There's a little toggle at the bottom. You can search, you can turn it on for pool home, search pool only. So yes, you can search those as well. I always tell people, if you're going to do 2 on a lot though, it's better to allow me to pull it through my customer service, because we pull it from a more, we have a triple system that we pull it from. So we look at them all and then combine them as one. A lot of times, you know, different areas, different cities record things different ways. So it's easier for like 2 on a lot to do myself, but pool homes, stuff like that, 4 bedrooms, single story only, all that you can do on the farm app. Absolutely. Great questions. Any other questions?
Tommy, how many lenders actually utilize this?
Quite a few, mainly for the tax sheets. I don't know, did you jump on before the tax sheet or after?
No, I've been on for a while. I meant as far as the farming aspect of it, how many of them are utilizing it to farm and create business, not only for themselves, for agents too?
Yeah, not many. I mean,
Okay.
to be honest, I don't even know, but maybe a couple lenders that physically farm houses, you know.
Okay, good. Sarah,
but
you're listening, right?
The lenders that I have on it I can tell you, because every time you pull a tax sheet or something, I'm notified, right? But I can tell you that they utilize it for that tax sheet and the estimated tax, because they look at, oh, okay, the sales price is 427,500. Tax sheet, boom, it does the calculations for you and gives you the new tax rate. And they just
Right.
plug it into their system and run. So they use it for that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great question, though. Anybody else? Esther, Alana, Jen, Tabitha, you guys have any questions?
I think the only question would be, do you have a referral for somebody? You were talking about the company that actually sends it out and everything, like for farming.
Yeah, there's a different, there's a couple different companies out there. You have Corefact. You have, there's one called Pelican as well. There's a handful of different ones. I like Corefact, even though really Fidelity owns them for the most part.
Okay.
I like Corefact because it's so simple. You
Okay.
know, it allows you to pick the type of card that you want. It brings the template in, very user friendly. It pulls all your data in once you build a free account. And not only that is when let me show you something. I use Google Chrome, and there's a Chrome extension right here. I'm highlighting it right here, my screen, and it's called Coopart. Coopart. And what it does is when you're on a website and you're going to purchase something, it automatically pulls in coupon codes. And I can always find a coupon code for Corefact. You could usually be able to save at least 5% almost all the time from Corefact. So that means, you know, for about 250 homes to send a postcard dual-sided, you should be able to send it out for about between 180 and 190 bucks. That's printed and mailed to the house. That's not bad.
Yeah.
You know? And if you need help, I can walk you through how to do that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Esther asked, can you please repeat the names of the websites? I don't know which websites you're talking about. The ones for mailers, you and I have already talked about those. Be Corefact or Pelican. Pelican's just a newer online version. It allows you to build stuff fairly easy, very similar to Corefact's platform. It's built around agents, and there's no minimal on it. In my opinion, sometimes it's a little bit more expensive than Corefact unless you're doing less than 200 mailers. You're doing like, hey, I only need 15, 20. They don't have a minimum, and they will do like, I think it's like 14 cents a piece or something like that printed. I'm not hugely familiar with them in regards to, you know, if they'll mail it out for you or what have you.
Hey, Tommy, can I throw out a suggestion?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know, with those mailers, I didn't know it was that inexpensive. And it does look like an allocation of commitment. This is where I would, I think, partner with the right lender and go halves on that. Because right now with the refinance boom, it works both ways and you reduce your cost. So we're going to be doing that with my team. And that's why this is awesome, man. Great job.
Corefact allows you to do that as well, where on the backside, on FarmPro, can you get email addresses? No, but I can definitely point you in the right direction. I will unpause that. So Corefact does that as well, where you can partner. So on the one side, you have your flyer. On the back side, you have your personal information. Half of it would be the agent, half would be the lender. And you both have your pictures, your information on it, and it will bill you separately. So they make it pretty easy to do that as well.
Sweet. Sarah, let's work on that.
You got it.
And yeah, I mean, you know, if you get a lender that's going to pick up 50% of that, it's, you know, it's advertising for both of you. That's the way to go, you know, just be consistent with it. All right, great questions. Any other questions? No? Tammy, Jen, anybody else?
No, this is great, Tommy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome job, man. Seriously.
Again, if you don't have access, go to tommyfortitle.com, register today. I'll have time this afternoon to approve everybody as they come in. And then that way you'll be all set up. But yeah, oh, one last thing. I almost forgot, and I'll put it in the comments as well. The mobile app is CTC, California Title Company, CTC Mobile, Mobile. Okay. So if you go to your app store and you search that, it's going to be the one that has my California Title logo, which is the blue circle with the state of California in it. Not the CTC Mobile Plus. Don't do that one. Your login will not log you into that one. Okay. So download that onto your phone as soon as you register, and you'll log into that app with the same username, same password. If you forget your password, you can always do forgot password. It'll email it to you. It will ask you to reestablish it, or you can call me and I can reset your password, but I cannot tell you what it is. I can't see it. I can give you your username and all that stuff. I can update your email. I can update your company address, all that good stuff, but I can't tell you what your password is. I get that quite a bit. People change phones. They have to relog into the app and they can't remember what it is because it keeps you logged in. So you just go online. You can do forgot password and reset it pretty quick. I mean, it definitely went longer than I was expecting to go today, but I'm glad it did because it seems like you guys had some questions. They were good questions. I'm hoping you got value out of it. And I mean, I hope you use it because it's a great tool to have in your pocket when you're out there. So yeah, if you guys have any issues, you have any questions, by all means, feel free to give me a call direct. If you don't have my number, oh, for some reason that was going to Esther. If you don't have my number, I will put it in the comment. It's 951-553-4640. That's my cell. All right. And I'll put my work email as well. Keep in mind at my tommyfortitle.com, all my contact information's there. So you can always get me there as well. All right. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. Unless anybody has questions, I'll hang on for a minute and answer anything extra or one-offs or what have you. But until then, MJ, next week we have Zoom and Learn at 12:30. I think we know what it is for next week, right?
Yeah, the CRMLS expert is coming on. She's going to show you some of the tricks of CRMLS, give you a quick tour of all the tools that you are already paying for and aren't using, and also take a Q&A. So if you have a CRMS problem, search problem, something you've always wondered why it works that way or want to do it a particular way,
That's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one because I can't tell you how many agents I've gone through the CRMLS and showed you some of the little things within it. And that everybody should be on that one next week. We're going to start posting it out there. It's the same Zoom link. So next week, Wednesday, 12:30, you will not want to miss that one.
All right. Thanks, Tommy.
All right, guys. Thank you very
great
much.
class. I learned a lot.
Thanks, Tommy.